We will build a home full of light and love, where magnolias bloom and you hear the morning dove. We will build a home by the cedar trees, where the fireflies make their magic in the evening breeze. A beautiful home where we can live a beautiful life. I dream someday that I can give a wonderful world of bricks and stone. We will build a house that we can make a home. We will build a home.
Thank you for joining us in experiencing Brucemore, an unparalleled blend of tradition and culture. At the heart of this historic 26-acre estate stands a 19th century mansion filled with the stories of three Cedar Rapids families: the Sinclairs, who built the property, the Douglases, who transformed it, and the Halls, who gave it to the community. The story of Brucemore and these families continues throughout the mansion. We hope you'll enjoy joining us as we continue our tour. The second-floor landing marks the start of the private areas of the home. While guests were invited into many of the rooms on the first floor, few people outside of those who lived in the mansion would have gone to the upper floors. Besides its official function, Barbara, the youngest Douglas daughter, recalled using this space during thunderstorms. The girls would gather here if they were afraid of the weather.
We were walking in the rain, my friend.
The wallpaper covering the walls of the hall was selected by Irene Douglas in 1928. The hand-screened printed wallpaper depicts an English fox hunt.
For as the tide came in, relentless in its pursuit.
The sewing room was a space that the Douglas family used for many purposes. Though the room is located on the service side of the mansion, its decorative fireplace indicates its use by the Douglas family. Primarily, the room served as Irene's office. Irene was a well-educated woman who was responsible for the smooth running of the Brucemore estate. Records show that she hired the staff, planned meals, kept the estate account books, and assisted in the designing of the mansion interior and grounds. She acted as an executive of Brucemore, playing an essential role in the running of the estate. Off of the room is a porch where Irene could observe the formal garden which she helped plan. The nursery was primarily used by the youngest Douglas daughters, Ellen and Barbara. The restoration of the nursery was based on an early photograph of Ellen sitting in the room. The children were closely supervised by Ella McDaniel, known to the family as Danny the nanny. Danny was a trained nurse who was hired by the Douglas family to work with the children. Unlike other servants, Danny had a close connection with the family. She was a companion to Irene and was employed by the family until 1930, long after the Douglas daughters needed the care of a nanny. When Ellen and Barbara were sharing the nursery, Danny the nanny used this room as her bedroom, ensuring she would be nearby if the girls needed anything or were sick. As the girls got older and wanted their own rooms, this room became Barbara's bedroom. In 1925, Irene had a special feature added to Barbara's sleeping porch. Irene was a lover of art, a patron of many local artists, and served as a president of the Cedar Rapids Art Association. She hired local artist Grant Wood to add a decorative plaster mural to the walls of the sleeping porch. At the time, Wood was working primarily in interior design and had not yet achieved worldwide acclaim for his 1930s painting, American Gothic. The mural has since been conserved and remains as a testament to Wood's varied artistic interest and the Douglas family's patronage of art.
Miles have passed, stretching down life's road, seeing the wonder of the seeds that I've sown, and my dreams have come as regrets have since gone into the memory of better things left undone. So I sit here wrapped in gratitude.
During the Douglas era, these rooms were used as the master suite. Today, the following rooms have been given new purposes as meeting rooms and a servery. Nonprofit organizations and corporate members of Brucemore may reserve these rooms for small meetings. The rooms also house some of the family's works of art, including paintings by Marvin Cohn, Conger Metcalf, and a Grant Wood lithograph. The third floor was both a public and a private space, combining both family bedrooms and guest bedrooms. The furnishings in this space were meant to be comfortable and were often items that were no longer used on the lower floors of the mansion. From 1910 until Margaret's marriage to Howard Hall in 1924, this space was her bedroom. In 1929, when Irene commissioned the installation of a Skinner player pipe organ, this space was converted into the loft for the pipes. Music was an important part of the Douglas family's life. All three daughters studied music as children, and Barbara did so extensively. This room houses 715 pipes, the smallest of which are the size of a pencil, and the largest extend from floor to ceiling. The louvers open and close, dampening or projecting the sound of the instrument through the house. The blower motor resides one floor above the pipes, in the attic. Similar to a player piano, the organ had an automatic function, which allowed the Douglases to enjoy music without having to sit at the console. The family owned about 100 rolls of music, including symphonies, popular music, and many excerpts of Wagner operas.
I can see clearly that many things have come, but the best of all of them has been the love of you.
Bruce Moore's guest bedrooms were designed to provide space for rest and relaxation for guests who were far from home. At the same time, guest rooms also provided privacy for the host. The Douglases owned swans, which swam on their pond. An original pair eventually produced a flock so large that the Douglases had to move some to their summer home at Charlevoix, Michigan. Their love for these birds was brought indoors with the decorations for this bedroom and its attached bath.
But I hope that you won't mind, no matter what the time.
Over the many years that this mansion was a home, the use of rooms changed. During the early 20th century, the Douglas family used one of the rooms on the third floor as a preschool room for Ellen, Barbara, and other children who lived in the neighborhood. Today, this room is furnished with pieces purchased by Irene for a guest room. In preparation for Barbara's wedding in 1934, Irene bought this rose-molded furniture set. Members of the wedding party stayed at the mansion for several days of festivities before the wedding ceremony, and this furniture was enjoyed by those house guests.
Black satin sky, the slice of moon, a closing eye.
Throughout the 19th and early 20th century, servants played an important role in many upper and middle-class households. All three families, the Sinclairs, Douglases, and Halls, depended upon servants for the running of the estate. This space was used by servants as a bedroom. The furnishings of the room indicate its functional purpose. Lower-cost materials were used as decorative spaces on the service side of the home, where practicality and simplicity were valued. Notice that this room lacks a fireplace. Steam heat would have kept residents warm, so the decorative fireplaces were deemed unnecessary for servants. This room was papered with less expensive wallpaper than was used in the family spaces of the mansion, and the floor left unpainted in the center, where it was covered with a rug. The small but comfortable quarters would often be used by multiple servants at once or by married couples. Nearby is the servants' bathroom.
Forevermore we remain brothers.
In 1937, Irene Douglas passed away, leaving Bruce Moore to her eldest daughter, Margaret. Margaret and her husband, Howard, made a few small changes to the property, but the most notable, by far, are the changes that Howard made to the basement. Inspired by the South Sea, Howard brought Tahiti to Bruce Moore. Along with his imaginative decor, Howard added a drop tin ceiling with sprinkler system on one end. When turned on, the system produces a rainstorm to delight Howard's guest. Howard's sense of humor continues in the Grizzly Bar, an Old West saloon. These basement rooms and the photos on one of their walls, which show his exotic pets and famous acquaintances, depict Howard as a showman, a figure who is hard to forget.
You can dance all night under the pale moonlight.
All of Bruce Moore's residents used their wealth and standing to promote the community that supported them. When Margaret died in 1981, 10 years after her husband Howard, she bequeathed her family estate to the National Trust for Historic Preservation to be run by a locally based nonprofit organization. Today, Bruce Moore operates as both a historic site and a community cultural center. During the year, theater, musical performances, and history programs draw thousands of visitors like you. These activities and Bruce Moore's ongoing preservation efforts are supported by a generous group of members and donors. Ask a guide how to donate today and help ensure that the legacy started by these generous families continues. Thank you for visiting Bruce Moore.